Alright, so what we're going to work on today is working on solving inequalities. Now, solving inequalities are pretty much basically the same thing as solving an equation. The only difference is, instead of having an equal sign when you're dealing with these, you have right here what's an inequality. Okay, so you have a less than or greater than or less than or equal to or greater than or equal to sign. Now, essentially, solving for your variable is exactly the same as it was before. You're going to have to get everything to the other side, always get rid of what's added or subtracted first, and then get it by itself. Alright, so we're going to look at this example here in just a second, but there is one other thing that I would like to add into your notes before we look at this example entirely. One of the things that you're going to have to be careful of, I'm going to get that off the screen here, one of the things that you're going to have to be careful of when you're solving inequalities is anytime as you're solving, if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you're going to have to remember to flip the sign. So I'm going to have you add this somewhere into your notes at the beginning. If you multiply or divide by a negative number. Okay, so if you are multiplying or dividing by a negative number to solve for your variable, basically, you have to flip the sign. And you will see some examples of this as we're going through and solving. It'll come up occasionally. And what I mean is, for example, if you had this originally to start with and you had to flip your sign, it just completely flips the other direction. Alright, so let's go through and look at our first example. If you need anything that's on the screen, go ahead and pause the video to get it down because I'm going to clear the screen. Okay, alright, so we're going to go back to that first problem. It was n minus 6 is less than or equal to negative 14. Alright, so kind of the same thing as before. If you want to go through and make your line, you can. Just remember it's an inequality, not an equal sign as you're solving. But just like before, we have to get n by itself. And it happens to be on the left-hand side, so we have to get rid of that minus 6. So to get rid of a minus 6, we just add 6 to both sides. That minus 6 and plus 6 are going to cancel, so it's n less than or equal to negative 8. Okay, so that would be our final solution to it. Okay, so it's very similar to solving an equation, it's just you're going to have an inequality instead of an equal sign. In this case, we didn't multiply or divide by a negative number, so we didn't have to flip our sign. So if you need anything from this particular problem, go ahead and pause the video because it's going to be erased. Alright, so let's try negative 12 is greater than x minus 7. Alright, so same kind of idea. If you want to put your line, you can to help you. We're solving for x. X happens to be on the right side, so we're going to add 7 to both sides. That will get rid of the minus 7. Now, where you're going to have to be careful is right here. As you guys have probably noticed in class, if I'm solving for x and x happens to be on the right hand side and I'm basically done with my problem, I always move the x to the left hand side just like I did here. Now what you're going to have to be careful of, so I'm going to change colors real quick. In this sign, if you notice, the pointy end is toward the x, right? So when you rewrite this thing, since I moved sides, I still have to have the pointy end toward the x when I write that. Okay, if I'm going to flip that x, it has to be essentially the same idea as it was before. The pointy end was toward the x, I got to leave the pointy end toward the x. So now we just have to solve negative 12 plus 7, which is negative 5. So that would be our solution. If you need anything from that one, go ahead and pause the video. Alright, we're going to look at negative 3x is less than or equal to negative 6. Alright, so same exact idea as before, just like it was with solving an equation. Now, with this one, remember, let me change my color here just a second. Remember, there we go, there's my x. Alright, so remember whenever you have a number right next to a variable, it means multiplication. So this is negative 3 times x. So to get x by itself, I have to get rid of times negative 3. So to get rid of times negative 3, I'm going to have to divide both sides by negative 3. And this is one of those that I had to be careful with. I divided both sides by a negative number. So instead of having a less than or equal to, I have to flip that sign. So again, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number to solve for x, you have to flip that sign. Now on the right side, negative 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So that would be my solution. Again, if you need anything from this problem, go ahead and pause the video. Alright, so we're going to try now n divided by 3 is greater than 9. Alright, so in this one, in order to get n by itself, I have to go through and get rid of division by 3. So to get rid of division by 3, I'm going to have to multiply both sides by 3. So on this left side, times 3 and division by 3 will cancel, so I get n. I didn't multiply or divide by negative, so I don't need to flip my sign. And 9 times 3 gives me 27. That would be my solution. And if you need anything from this problem, pause your video. Alright, so let's move up to a 2-step. So let's say I have 2x plus 4 is greater than or equal to 24. Alright, so just like before with our equation, this time to solve for x I have to get rid of times 2 and I have to get rid of plus 4. You always get rid of what's added or subtracted first. So we're going to minus 4 to both sides. So those would cancel. So I get 2x is greater than or equal to, and 24 minus 4 gives us 20. So now to solve for x, I have to get rid of times 2, so we're just going to divide by 2 to both sides. And 20 divided by 2, which would simplify to 10. So that would be our answer. Again, if you need anything from this problem, pause your video. Alright, let's do a 2-step that a bunch of you had trouble with. Maybe you didn't like these division ones. Okay, so we're going to do m divided by 3 minus 3 is less than or equal to negative 6. Alright, so again, we're solving for m, so we have to get rid of what was added or subtracted first, so we're going to have to get rid of the minus 3. So we're going to have to add 3 to both sides. Those would cancel. So we're left with, on the left, m over 3. We didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so we're keeping our sign the same. And negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. And now to solve for n, I have to get rid of the division by 3. So we multiply by 3. Those would cancel, so I get m is less than or equal to negative 9. Again, I didn't multiply or divide by a negative number, so I didn't have to flip my sign. If you need anything from this problem, go ahead and get it down. Alright, so let's try something that has some distributive property in there. n plus n, say greater than negative 32. Alright, so with this one I do have distributive property, so I need to go through and make sure I do my distributive property first. So I'm going to have to multiply the negative 4 to the 3 first, and then the negative 4 to the n. So when I go through and multiply negative 4 to 3, I get negative 12. If I do negative 4 times n, I get negative 4n, which remember we just write as a minus 4n, greater than negative 32. Sorry, I forgot the rest of my line in there. Alright, now we're solving for n, so we have to get rid of what was added or subtracted first. So we have to get rid of that minus or negative 12. So we have to add 12 to both sides. Those would cancel, so we get negative 4n. Greater than, we haven't done anything else with that. This will come out to negative 32 plus 12 is negative 20. Alright, so now, to solve for n, I have to get rid of times negative 4. So getting rid of a times negative 4 means I have to divide by negative 4 to both sides. And again, this is where I'm going to have to be careful. I divided by a negative number to both sides, so I have to remember to flip my sign. negative 20 divided by negative 4 is a positive 5, which would be our solution for this one. Alright, so we're going to look at 3 more examples. Some of these are combining like terms first, or distributive property, or variables on both sides. So if you need anything from this problem, go ahead and get it down. Alright, so let's try 6x plus 2 plus 6x is less than 14. Okay, so with this one, I don't have any distributive property, but I do notice that I do have some like terms. I have a 6x and a 6x. So those are like terms. I can combine those. They're on the same side of the inequality. So 6x and 6x is 12x. Oops, I forgot the x. I still have the plus 2. It's less than 14. Alright, so now to solve for x, I have to get rid of what was added or subtracted first, so we're going to have to minus 2. So I get 12x is less than 14 minus 2, which is 12. And now to get rid of times 12, we're going to have to divide by 12. So I get x is less than 1. Okay. Pause the video if needed. I'm going to clear the screen. Alright, let's look at one that has variables on both sides. A minus 6 less than or equal 15 plus 8a. Okay, so with this one, remember if you have variables on both sides, you're going to need to move one. My recommendation in class was to move the smallest one so you didn't have to deal with a negative. So the single a by itself, which remember is just a 1a. This is just, let me change color here. I like purple, so that's just like having a 1a. So that's my smallest one, so to get rid of 1a we should minus 1a. We have to do that to both sides. So those would cancel. I'm left with a negative 6. Remember, don't forget to write that negative in there. And I have 15, 8a minus 1a, which is 7a. And now I'm solving for my a value. So as I go through, I get rid of what was added or subtracted first. So I'm going to have to subtract 15. So those would cancel. And I get negative 6 minus 15, which is negative 21. Less than or equal to 7a. And now to solve for a, I'm going to have to divide by 7 to both sides. Now remember, I'm going to start writing my a. And if I notice, when I look, let me put that on red. When I look right here, my open end is toward my a value. So when I rewrite this thing, my inequality, I'm going to have to make sure that my open end is toward the a. And then negative 21 divided by 7 is negative 3. Pause the video if you need anything. I'm going to clear the screen. Alright, this is the last one that we're going to look at. It's 6 minus 4, 6a plus 7 is greater than or equal to 122. Okay, so with this one we do have some distributive property. The 6 in the front has nothing to do with my distributive property, so I'm going to bring that one down. Now, this negative 4, remember you want to distribute that as a negative 4, we're going to multiply negative 4 to each of these. So, negative 4 times 6, which gives me a negative 24. Don't forget to write your a value. Negative 4 times 7 is a negative 28. And then we have greater than or equal to 122. And again, we can go ahead and put our line. Well, now we need to go through and combine our like terms. So with this one, the 6 and negative 28, those are my two like terms. So when I combine 6 and negative 28, I get negative 22. So I'm going to write, once I combine those, I'm going to put the negative 24a first. And again, 6 and negative 28 is negative 22. It's greater than or equal to 122. So to solve for a, I have to get rid of the minus 22 first. So I'm going to add 22. Those would cancel. I get negative 24a is greater than or equal to 144. And now to solve for a, I have to get rid of times negative 24, so that means I'm going to have to divide by negative 24. I'm going to get my negative show up. Alright, and this is again where we have to be careful. I divided by a negative number, so I'm going to have to flip my sign around. And 144 divided by negative 24 is a negative 6. So that would be our solution.